another day of my AuthorTube tour. I hope you have been like really receiving a lot of gems, nuggets, and you have been enjoying if you've been binge watching or you have been catching it live, blah, 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 blah. I'm a little tongue tied today, as we can see. But I hope you have been enjoying the experience, learning, gleaning, gaining, writing copious amounts of notes so that you may know how to move ahead as an author. And today is the day for me to share with you how does a single mom do it all and write the behind the scenes road to publishing. And so you know how we do it. We're going to allow you time to get in, to come in the room, grab your seat, grab your tea, grab your snacks, whatever you need to make this a comfortable atmosphere and a learning or receiving, a gleaning, a gaining environment for you. I'm going to wait on you, okay? It's okay. I'm going to wait on you to do what you do, to get yourself together, to call your girlfriend, to call your guy friend, to call the next single parent, or to even share this live video. Tag someone that you know could really use inspiration, encouragement, and a change of perspective as they are becoming a writer. We don't want anyone to fail or feel as a failure because they didn't publish that book, because they didn't write that story, because they did not allow their voice to be heard in a published way. So I want you to know that this is what we're here for. This is what I'm here for. I am here to share my experiences, to even learn from you. So if you have any tips, if you have any challenges that you faced and that you overcame them, guess what? Write them in the comments, okay? What was your journey like to becoming a published author? What challenges that you faced? What ups and downs that you had to experience? What go through that you had, that made you an even more greater writer? I want to know. I want to hear from you. This is not just a monologue. This is also a dialogue. So when you share your victories, when you share your failures, when you share the places that you had to overcome, we can learn from each other. And those that come onto this live and see the replay, listen, they have a plethora of experiences that they can pull from, a lot of wisdom that they can pull from, so that they may know how to not give up the race in becoming an author. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few more minutes, and while we are gathering in, you know what we're going to do, right? Yes, it is time for us to listen to some music and get a little hype and get ourselves together as we are entering into the room. Okay, so are you ready? I'm ready. Are you ready? Let's get started. It's okay. Even if you have the same dance moves, it is fine. Go with it. Have fun. Relax. Put your hair down, and just go with the vibe. Go with the flow. Move your body. Let me turn up just a little bit more. I'm here for it. For watching the replay. Hands out. Okay, I think this is my favorite move. This is my favorite. Let me get both. And I know that we are all parched now. You probably need a little sip of your water. So go ahead and take a sip of your water, and we are going to just get started, right? We are going to learn what we need to learn. I'm going to share what I need to share, and we're going to have a lot of fun on today, listening, gleaning, learning, and just being in the atmosphere where you can just be yourself. So if you have any type of blockages right now that you are feeling as a publisher, write it down, write it in the comments, and I am going to make sure that I go back and I answer the questions or the concerns and give you some gleam of hope, some gleam of inspiration, some push to let you know that you got this, you can do this. Take everything that you are faced with right now and use it as your leverage, as your sounding board. Use it as your stepping stone, your bridge to get you to that next place, to that next phase. And I say that because that's something that I had to do while I was writing. As you all know, when the first if you have been following along, the first behind the scenes road to publishing, I shared how long it took me to write my book. And I'm glad that I waited. I'm glad that it did take that long because of the nuggets that I've learned, the events that happened throughout the years that I was able to add to my book and give it more substance, give it more meat, give it more a foundation to help, readers such as yourself learn and transform their thinking when we are faced with the things that are out of our norm. So one of the things that I had to experience while writing this book was the pandemic. And so a lot of us, may have looked at the pandemic as oh my gosh, what we're going to do next, or this is messing up everything that I had planned. And of course, it threw a monkey wrench into our days, into our events, into our norm, our way of living. But hey, with that came a new way of living life. With that came a new way of understanding how life works, and new ideas and creativity, and you saw your strength, and you saw yourself doing things that you didn't think that you were capable of doing. Maybe it kind of put us back into almost, before technology, or all these things or not just before technology, it pushed us into an area of technology itself and utilizing technology on a greater level. And so it brought about a lot of changes. And as well, we had so many different events to happen during the pandemic, such as, really the Black Lives Matter. When I was in Mississippi, I was writing while I was in Mississippi during the pandemic, as I was going back and forth, from Texas to Mississippi, because another thing that was going on in my life during that time was I was in culinary school. And the pandemic happened like towards, the end, almost towards, I was going into my next phase of culinary program. And so I ended up having to, travel back and forth from Mississippi to Texas. And then I finally was able to just, spend the rest of the time in Mississippi. I did my internship in Mississippi. And so there was a lot of content, a lot of mindset shifting and emotional, maturity that had to take place, because if something like that happens and you have to drive 13 hours, 11 hours, over the road to and fro, trying to complete a degree, it can be so overwhelming. It could be emotionally overwhelming, mentally overwhelming. But that is something that I had to, go through for me to publish this book. This is my behind the scenes. And I don't know what it looks like to you in publishing your book, some of the trials that you have to go through. Maybe it's a sickness, maybe it is, a bad breakup. Maybe it's a loss of job. Maybe it is, you starting your own business. So I allowed my days, I allowed my years, I allowed my upsets and my setbacks to be a part of my journey, a part of my story. So when I wrote this book, I wrote it from a place of in the now, what's going on now, what's going on, not only just in what has taken place, but what's going on, what we can all relate to, and just really be in the moment when I was writing the book, so that it can be very relatable, it can be very timely, it can be a treasure that could be used for generations to come. So I was writing, as I was writing, and even writing through tears, or writing through fears, or writing through, anxiousness, and worrying about, am I going to ever publish this book? So those are some things that I had to, face while I was writing this book. Okay. So what we're going to do right now, because we have some ways to go, I am going to take a 30-second break, and then we are going to come back, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about how does a single mom do it all. So I'm going to share a little bit about the single mom journey, and becoming a writer, so that those that are a single parent can see that you can write and parent. Okay. You can find harmony. Okay. So we will be back in 30 seconds. So go do what you got to do. Okay. Stretch them legs. Go ahead and subscribe if you have not subscribed, in order for you to fully engage in this conversation. That way you can leave those messages. I can respond. And you can also just get all of the yumminess that's going to be taking place in this AuthorTube tour. Okay. So we will be right back in 30 seconds. Welcome back. We are back at this AuthorTube tour. So today it is about, how does a single mom do it all and write? So we're going to give a little bit behind the scenes to my road to publishing as a single mom. So finding time to write is key. Finding those time, carving out those blocks, carving out your schedule, and making sure that you are sticking to your schedule as much as possible. So if you're having little ones, you need to know, like, okay, what is the best time for you to write? My children, when I started writing, they were pretty much, almost teenagers. So, they were pretty much set in their, they could just find things to do. So I didn't really have that much of a issue as far as finding time to write, because I have children. But because I am a single mom, that does mean more of a demand, because not only do I have children, I was working a 9 to 5. Like I said, I was in school, also ministry work that I was heavily involved in. And so making sure that I carved out those moments, those hours, those 30 minutes, the hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, however long I decided that I want to write. And I did that, and I stuck with that until, something like the writer's block began to happen. And I'm like, what am I going to write now? What am I to talk about now? How am I going to put this story together now? What is it that I have in me that I can pull out and pour into, the pages of this book now? So, but even then, I even Googled what to do when you have writer's block. But it was a thing that we did in school when I was in culinary school, in my writing class, where we just wrote. We impromptu writing. We just have to write for 30 minutes or 15 minutes. It didn't matter what we wrote about. We just have to write something. And so I began to utilize that tip or strategy in my writing. So I just began to write, and it didn't matter what came out, how it came out, what it looked like, I just began to write it. And then after I just began to write, I began to go back and read. And then I'm like, oh, okay, we're gonna clean this up, and we're gonna specifically talk about, this particular theme or this particular topic in this section. And so as I began to do that, I found myself, getting over or found myself overcoming, as they say, writer's block. But if you have writer's block, just begin to write anything. It doesn't matter if it makes sense. It doesn't matter if it flows with your topic, with your thoughts. Just write. That is how you're going to unblock the writer's block. That's how you're going to break through that barrier. That's how you're going to really, move the needle in your writing when you just write about anything. Write about your day, write about a song that you heard, write about food that you ate, write about, you having to take a potty break or whatever the case may be. Just write it down. That way it will unlock those, whatever that is that's come to stop you and keep you from writing. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes we don't feel as if what we are saying is worth sharing, and that can be cause a form of writer's block, because we become afraid and we overthinking, we're over analyzing, and so it shows up in our writing, and so it makes us feel as if we have writer's block. But it's actually just, I feel like, a fear tactic that comes because what we have to say is very valuable. It's needed. And the people that you're writing for, they are going to, even if you're writing just for you, you can go back and read, and then you can kind of tweak it for your hearers, And so I remember when I started my writing, I was actually, going to counseling. And so seeing a therapist, seeing a counselor, whichever one you want to say. And so when I was sharing with my counselor or my therapist about what I was, my next phase, my next journey of writing, she, told me to write what others want to read about, write what they want to hear about. Okay. So when I'm writing, I wrote from that aspect of what am I sharing that others would love to read? What am I talking about that others would love to read? And you know what? That sounds like a really, really, awesome idea. And it really was. But that alone can cause a writer's block as well, because it's like, what do they want to hear? What do I have? What story I have in me that the next person wants to hear? And that goes into knowing your audience. So knowing who you're writing for, knowing the purpose of your writing. Are you writing just to get something out? But, if it's just writing just to get it out, then, hey, you're just writing just to get it out. But if you're wanting to publish your writing, then know who you're writing for. So back to being a single mom and having to find those spots and find those slots and those times to write, it kind of got a little, it could be a lot, because I still had to cook. I still had to, as I stated, all the other necessities that I had to take care of. But, I found those times to write. I found those moments early in the mornings or late at night. Sometimes I would be up to 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, writing and trying to structure my book or get my thoughts out of my head. So finding those times is key, or just specifically setting out that time. If it's more so that you just want to set out your time, that means, knowing your day, knowing how your days go. And so planning around, like, okay, I have this amount of time, or on this day, specific day, I know that I'm off, or on this weekend, I know that I'm off. If you're planning to write every day, so maybe it's like, well, I can't write, the whole hour or 3 hours, but I can do 30 minutes. And so even when I was, working, I had my phone and I would just write. Whatever thought came to my mind, I would write it, in my notes. And then I would use my notes of what I written down and put it to my, on my laptop, so that everything could be in one place. So finding those moments, creating those moments is very key, to making it, doing it all and right. So finding those key moments, finding those places, those spaces, those times that you can sneak in your writing if you cannot carve out, specific time. But I would suggest that you carve out specific time. Make sure that your children know. One of the things that my mom used to do when we were younger, and I hold on to this, is when she would go into her room and pray, before she would, as she's organizing and planning her day, she would let us know, hey, from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, this is going to be my prayer time. So she made sure we had everything that we were in need of. She tell us not to come and bother her unless it is something very important, like the house is on fire, right? So if something like that is very important, then we are allowed to, hey, mom, this is what's going on. But other than that, we made sure, and we respected that as much as possible, I believe, as far as I can remember. There may be some times where we went and knocked on the door and, demanded her attention. But other than that, she will always tell us, hey, from this time to this time, it's my time to, be in meditation. So I use those same tactics with my children. I use those same strategies with my children. Hey, from this time to this time, this is what we're going to be doing. This is what I'm going to be doing. And so that way they know, okay, well, after this time, I'm free game, but during this time, respect my boundaries, respect that time, because I'm trying to get A, B, and C done, and I can't do it if I'm always being pulled on, or, I'm always been asked of things, so making sure we are all on the same page is very key to doing it all and right, so that you can be a successful writer, an effective writer. And so some other things that I had to employ while I was writing, I employed music. I had to have some writer's music, because in those moments where I did get a brain fog or whatever, I'm like, okay, and to help the atmosphere, I employed writer's music, just the music that would help me meditate. I realized that I cannot listen to certain music with, especially, singers that have very layered voices. They are able to, really have great vocal agility ability. So that really throws me off, and I get to listen to the music more than I do writing. So I had to find music that had no singing, just strictly instrumental, that would be able to just put me in that zone of writing. And so another thing that I had to do in order to do it all and right is, when it came down to meals, I had to have my cutoff time. In writing. So I will make sure that I prepared the food that they were in need of, that we were in need of. So if it was breakfast, lunch, and dinner, making sure that everything was taken care of, making sure that my children had things that they were in need of in order for them to just pull and go. Or if it was something like, hey, I need to cook, then I will make sure that, okay, well, I set my time of writing so that it won't overlap my time of cooking. And so I make sure that things were, flowing as much as possible. So did that always happen? Like I said, there are times where, hey, the day comes and the children may be a little bit more demanding. They may need something emotionally, mentally, and all those things. So you have to, set the writing aside and, be in the moment with your children. But overall, if you all are, this all depends on what age level your child is. Okay. So if you have teenagers, such as I have, my boys are 16 and 15. But like I said, when I started writing, it was, 6 years ago. So they were a little bit younger. But if you have children that are younger, maybe like 3 and 2 and 4 and 5, that's a different, ball game. And so you do have to, like, cater to them in that moment, because they are more demanding than teenagers are. Teenagers can pretty much, they're self-sufficient and they are able to do things and think over things and on their own. And, just make sure you have a plan in mind, because, those that fail to plan, they plan to fail. So making sure you have a plan in mind, and including every person in your home that is a part of the writing process, meaning that they will help you write by giving you your space, giving you that time, making sure that they are not interrupting you until that certain time is up. And so they are part of the writing process as well. So that is something that I did, the behind the scenes of my, how does a single mom do it all and write? So my road to publishing. So it has been its ups and downs. It's been real challenges, you know, and we're going to talk about it some more when on week 3. So if you guys are rocking with me, I'm so glad that you are rocking with me. So I cannot wait to share with you guys even more about my behind the scenes road to publishing, and answer those questions that you may have, that you may leave today. You know, I know I do the Q&A on Mondays, but I feel like, you know, you may have a question for the behind the scenes because you are in this phase of publishing and you don't know your next step. So I believe the next one we will talk about the steps that I took to actually publishing my book. So maybe some we'll share like publishing companies, self-publishing, or, you know, what to look for, what to expect, and all those good things that will help you become the successful writer that you desire to be. Okay. So with that said, listen, we're going to be cutting this off a little bit earlier today. Oh, this is my book. If you guys have not purchased this book yet, it's an amazing book. It is a book filled with, let me see if you can see it. I'm going to do it like that. There's a light it has a really cool shine to it. Very, very sleek look. So it makes it look as if it's glossy, but it's a matte finished book. But if you have not received your copy of this particular book, listen, the link is scrolling below. Okay. So all you have to do is type in the link once we leave here and go ahead and grab your book. Okay, and get to reading so that you can join in the conversations and the book excerpts reading and the publishing and everything that this tour has been, you know, consistent of, or been composed of. I want you to be a part of it, and to be even more a part of this, you need to have your copy. Okay, get your copy today. And if you do it, you know, or the Kindle edition, it is available on Kindle as well. So you can have a soft copy or you can have the Kindle edition, whichever one fancies you, whichever one makes you, you know, more comfortable with reading. You know how your lifestyle is and reading books and ABSC. So grab your copy. You know, it's scrolling at the bottom, bit.ly/what's your I can, and make sure that you know, do the Prime. I believe if you do it on Prime, you get it in 2-3 days. But if you do it without Prime, listen, you're going to have to wait at least 2 to 3 weeks before you get your book. Okay. And this tour is over on the 29th. But guess what? It's okay. You can always go back and you can, you know, glean from what I have written and get the book and read at the same token. So it's still going to be great. It's still going to be fantastic. Okay. So you guys, I'm so glad that you joined me on today. And for those of you who do not know me, I am a newly published author, but I'm also the successful Titan, single mom, transformative speaker, biblical business growth strategist, personal chef, and I help empower BIPOC single moms to reclaim their life of abundance. Change your story, transform your life, live your utopia. So until next time, you guys, I want you to have a wonderfully blessed Tuesday, and we're going to go out the same way that we came in. Okay, are y'all ready? So there's ready?